All right, let's begin with this. Free State Education MEC Tate Makgoe has been laid to rest in Bloemfontein. Makgoe died alongside his protector, Warrant-Officer Vuyo Mdi, last Sunday morning after the vehicle they were travelling in collided with two cars on the N1 near Winburg. The driver of the vehicle was injured and transferred to hospital. Tate Makgoe's comrades commended his dedication and commitment to serve. SABC News senior political reporter Samkele Maseko attended those proceedings throughout the day. Let's cross to him live now. Samkele, of course, it's been a day filled with tears and also, remembrance, as some are talking about, MEC Makgoe, and seeing the pain that was on, his family's face, and really a huge loss for them and not just the people of the Free State.
Indeed, Bongiwe, South Africans rarely think about the pain and grief that families go through, particularly when it's a high-profile individual, high-profile politician that has reached his untimely death in times like these. A great grief being shown by his daughters. Just his son, Junior, who was a bit funny, who was a bit jovial, but also got very emotional when he was speaking about the plans they had with their father, about him coming back to the Free State province and assisting in the education sector of this province, which Dr. Tate Makgoe took as MEC in 2009, taking the province from 66.8% matric pass rate across the province and taking it to 88.5% and being the #1 performing province within the country out of the 10 districts across the country. The Free State getting about 8 of the best performing districts across the country and being #1 totally across the country. Those whom were mourners at the service of Dr. Tate Makgoe spoke about the healthy competition between Gauteng and also the Free State province within the education sector. You heard the likes of ANC Secretary General Tate Makgoe saying that the ANC National Executive Committee in the 2019 list conference at the Coastlands Hotel in Durban had to intervene when the Free State leadership had left Tate Makgoe out of the province-to-province deployment list to the provincial ledger and brought him back on the virtue that he was the best performing MEC within the country and did not see any reason why he should not be lifted from the very bottom of the list and in a higher up, safer position for him to make it into the provincial legislature within the province. Tate saying that they had to stop the mediocrity that was being sent to the ANC's National Executive Committee of the Free State province in that deployment list, in making sure that Dr. Tate Makgoe makes it into the provincial legislature. And in 2022, last year, in the announcement of the results earlier on this year, the Free State once again bagging the #1 spot of the most and the best performing province when it comes to those matric results.
And Samkele, very briefly, let's of course talk about some of what those who were in attendance would have said. And you think back even to just after news of his death broke, we saw the Premier talking about what a difficult road ahead it's going to be for the province now, especially when you look at just how his passing really comes at a time that no one really saw coming.
His passing comes at a time when the Premier of the province, is going to be reshuffling his cabinet next week. Tuesday, tomorrow, you're going to see the swearing in of new members of the provincial legislature, such as Dibelelo Mahlatse, the Deputy Provincial Secretary, Fikile Mbalula, the Secretary General of the ANC, saying that he is in constant communication with the provincial leadership and the Premier of the province as to how he's going to compose his provincial executive of the province, saying that even if Tate Makgoe did not meet his untimely demise, he certainly knew that he was one of those MECs who were not going to be removed from the provincial government and ultimately as the MEC of education in the province, saying that he is ultimately the best of the African National Congress, and it's going to be big shoes to fill for whoever comes in as MEC of education, saying that they, as the Premier of the province, has to choose very wisely and choose people people with competent skills in order to continue with the legacy of Dr. Tate Makgoe that he has left in the education sector of the Free State Province and ultimately of the country. One of those whom we were engaging with yesterday, Dr. Zamani Saul, he was ultimately saying that this effectively means that South Africa has lost a future minister of higher education, of basic education rather, Bongiwe, in the form that should Me Njumutsecha not return as the basic education minister next year, Tate Makgoe was one of those individuals who could have taken the baton and moved the education sector further, knowing that Panyaza Lesufi is now the premier of the Gauteng province.
And of course, it's going to be interesting to see some of those changes, Samkele, especially when you listen to just how they talk about renewal, they talk about service delivery, and how it's going to be a focus. Now, let me thank you for your time. That's Samkele Maseko, our senior political reporter.